Thank you for joining us as Levi continues our study on the Book of Beginnings, the first book of Moses called Genesis.
All right. Would you like a Bible, sir? Okay. Would Marcos like a Bible? Yeah. Okay. Now, here we go. So, I'm going to start out verses 1 through 5. This is what it says. Then Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said to him, "You shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take yourself a wife from there, the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you, that you may be an assembly of the peoples, and give you the blessing of Abraham. To you and your descendants with you, that you may inherit the land in which you are a stranger, which God gave to Abraham." This is verse 5. So Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padan Aram, to Laban, the son of Bethuel, the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. All right, now, for you guys who may be joining us first time online or here tonight, to kind of give you an idea what's going on, remember that Abraham got called to the land of Canaan. God promised it to him. This is where Israel is birthed. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are the forefathers of the Jewish community of Israel. In fact, we're going to read later, going forward, Jacob's going to get his name changed to Israel, which means wrestles with God. All right? And on top of this, there was a custom of the ancient days where they would go back to the family and find a bride that was kindred to the family. Today it's frowned upon, but they would find like a cousin, a second cousin, niece, nephew, something like that. Even in the ancient days, because there wasn't how would you say, the gene pool wasn't so tainted, you could actually marry your sister. Later it'll be, God will say, don't do that. But in the very beginning, because humanity is a little different, they would do that. And so it's very awkward if you think about it, but we also think in the United States and our Western culture, how we hang with our sister there, it's very separated. And so, but the finding a bride was very different, and there was usually someone who went to go find a bride for you. In the case of Jacob right now, he is going to head to Syria. He's going to travel from Canaan north to Syria, where he's going to end up finding his bride, which will later be Rebekah, which that will be a whole nother story we'll get into. But I want to talk about the importance of what's happening here in dating. And what's really interesting is in 28, not only do you get Jacob's perspective, later we're going to see Esau and what he does to find another bride, because there was also polygamy being practiced back then. It's not something that you should do today. It's frowned upon to do today. Some religious groups still practice it, but back then it was just the thing that was overlooked. They just overlooked it. Like today, materialism is overlooked in the church. It's not right. It shouldn't be done, but it's just overlooked. If you're not sure what materialism is, it's I have a phone, my phone works just fine, but I have to have the latest SG, whatever number coming out because downloads, uploads, whatever it is, right? Or the latest car. You have things that you need, and God provides it, and then you're looking for the latest. That's materialism. You're looking so you can have the latest status. It's not, people do this all the time, all right? They have a perfectly working car. It's 3 years old. But they got to have the 2023 when it comes out in January at the latest 0 APR Christmas special. Santa Claus will give it to you, whatever sale, right? And the commercials are ridiculous, right? The couple goes outside and like, I got you a blue truck. I mean, maybe some couples can do that. Kudos to you. More power to you. If I do that for my wife, it will be a toy that big, all right? So, you know, and if you've been in the Marine Corps as a private and making your way up, it is not easy, all right? So, especially if you served 20 years ago or more, all right? So, now here's the thing. Jacob's parents are sending him away to Laban. Laban, again, is his uncle, be Rebekah's brother, which is his mother, that they can find someone close to the family and not a woman of Canaan. There was a reason they didn't want the women of Canaan, because they were practicing all these crazy pagan practices with demons, and it was causing all kinds of problems. So Jacob's going to go to Syria. It's a rough area about it. Both parents are recognizing the daughters, recognizing the danger of marrying the wrong person. All right, so if you're a parent here and you have adult kids, you can understand that. You can understand what can happen if your child marries the wrong person. You can understand what it's like if they date the wrong person. If you're young and you're dating, maybe not. Maybe you're just like, oh, my parents are old and they don't get it. Like, they're old school and I'm not. I'm of this generation. I'm going to let you on a little secret, especially if you're young. Everybody coming up in their teen and young 20s fell in love and thought the previous generation didn't get it. All right? So whether you fell in love in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, which was a lot of free love, the 70s, all right, bell bottoms and disco, 80s, a lot of neon colors, a lot of experimentation of colors. I think there was some leftover residual from a lot of drugs from the 60s in that one. No? Nothing? Okay. And then the 90s with all the grunge and weirdness, right? And if you grew up in the 90s, the Django jeans and all that stuff, all right? And then the early 2000s, which were clothes that were just like, I don't know what's happening here. It was like 70s came back and didn't know what to do with itself. And then just every generation goes through things. Every young generation, whether 18, 19, 20, they think that nobody understands them. Nobody understands how in love they are. No one understands what they're going through and the emotions and all that stuff. My kid went through that. My kid was like, you just don't get it, Dad. It's hard. It's difficult. She's way on the other side of the country. You never went through anything like this. Really? Really? I never did? I did 3 combat tours. My wife got pretty upset and looked at him and was like, your father went to war 3 times. You don't think I was worried and we weren't in love? How do you think you got on this planet? All right? So, it just comes with the territory. But I get it. When I was 19, it was the same way. I'm like, it's the turn of the century and we're young and my parents just don't get it. They're hippies, It's just that hippie mentality. Now that I'm in my 40s, it's like, I'm an idiot. That's okay. We all were there once. And the thing I think it's really interesting about dating in your youth, if you guys remember this, and this is more for some of you who have passed the 20s, and even think about your teens. So even if you're out of your teens, maybe you're in your early 20s, think about what you thought was cool. What you thought, like, if I wear this is cool, my hair like this is cool, this, and this cool, talking like this cool. And then you look back at it and you're like, what was I thinking? Even the music. You think about the old music you listen to and you're like, what was I thinking? What was that? Am I the only one? Yeah. Okay. All right, so nobody here has had that where you look back at your youth and go, what was I thinking? Huh? No, I'm just saying in anything. Clothing style, what you thought was funny. Have you ever, think about some of the movies you think are funny, and then you go back to look at them, and you're like, you want to show your kid the movie, and then you're like, oh, I didn't know that was in there. That's not that funny. That's kind of inappropriate, Yes. And then I also think about my youth, about like trying to date and things like that, where shenanigans I got into. And I think back and I go, dude, if my kids pulled these shenanigans, I'd kill them. And I was pulling shenanigans. It comes with the territory. And any parent here that's like, oh, never with me. Yeah, okay. We all pulled shenanigans. It happens. All right? So my point is this. The parents are recognizing the danger in marrying. And notice how in the ancient culture, the parents were more involved to help find a suitable person to marry. And parents can still help today. It's just our culture has changed very much, all right, on how it works. And again, every parent's different in how they see dating. My kids never dated in high school, all right? They never dated in high school. I mean, if you date in high school, okay, I get it. But I mean, I remember one time my son was like, yeah, my friend's having a bum day. It's really hard. He broke up with this girl. I mean, he's in high school at the time. And I was like, oh, yeah. And he's like, yeah, man, they've been together a long time, man, a long time. I said, how long? He's like, 3 months. 3 months to a high schooler, I get it. It's a long time, you know? So, and I get it. We all had different things for dating and stuff like that. But I mean, maybe you grew up in a strict house. Maybe you grew up where your parents were trying to hook you up and get your marriage rolling already. All right? Maybe maybe there's different styles, right? But the question is, so what about dating? And maybe you're like, well, Levi, I'm old and married. What does that have to do with me? A lot. And we'll get into that too. But the fact of the matter is, everybody has had different experience with dating, right? And so here's the thing. They see that Jacob, the concept of Jacob marrying a woman that would serve false gods or demons would bring grief and a lot of trouble. It would bring destruction. Because what a lot of people don't understand within dating too, you connect spiritually. That's why Paul warns, like he says, if you're a man or a woman, either or, and you have the Holy Spirit in you, you've given your life to Jesus, you have the Holy Spirit, and you're uniting yourself sexually to someone who doesn't, or someone who's into certain practices to conjure other spirits, you are uniting yourself to that spirit. And you drag the Holy Spirit into that union. And so there's a depth to it. That's why you have to be wise in this, all right? You have to use wisdom. But again, and I'm not going to have a show of hands or raise your hands, but you know sitting here, maybe you're sitting here tonight and you're like, nobody taught me anything about relationships. Nobody taught me how to date. Nobody taught me anything about how to approach people. You know, maybe you grew up and you were never taught boundaries. There's people like that. They're never taught boundaries. And so I even one time told a young lady, I said, there's even boundaries in marriage. And they're like, no, there's not. I'm like, yeah, there is. 100% there's boundaries in marriage.
There should be.
Yes, 100%. And even if you think there's not, I can prove it to you in one sentence. All right? Do you follow each other into the bathroom for certain things, or do you put a boundary? There you go. That's a boundary. All right? So, easy peasy. That's a boundary. All right? Now, so, again, Jacob having to find a wife. Now, it would seem now that Isaac and Rebekah have learned the lesson from reacting out of the flesh from the previous chapter we talked to, or the previous event that had happened. So the question tonight is, how does this all apply to us? How does what we're seeing here of parents helping their grown son, because remember, how old is Jacob? He's 50. They're helping at 50 years old get a wife. You would think like, dude, you're 50, you can't figure out how to get a woman? But remember, the culture's different. The culture back then wasn't like you went to the local high school, or you were down at the skate park, or you went to the dog park, or you went to L's Starbucks, or whatever it was, or, you know, the Lebanese coffee Starbucks.
They still had puberty at the same age that we have puberty.
Yes, they do.
So that must have been really weird.
Well, they also got married a lot different too. So the thing you have to understand is, in the culture, the parents helped, and so there were dowries given. Remember when Isaac went to get Rebekah, he gave rings. Eliezer went ahead and gave rings and bracelets and all kinds of things and gave gifts, and there were all these dowries given. In some cultures in Africa, they still do the same. In some cultures, when the guy is interested in the woman, the dad will go and give like 3 Mercedes-Benz. We'll give camels, we'll give everything. In fact, I know a gentleman who was on the mission field in Africa, and when he got married, he had to get a marriage license that was recognized by the United States, plus one by the country he was in, and he had to give a goat to the mom for the tribal, for the tribe to recognize the marriage, all right? Because there's tribal marriages. So when I got married, and we got married in Central America in Honduras, I had to get a marriage certificate that Honduras recognized plus the U.S. government recognized. So I had to get a dual. You all right there? I had to get a dual marriage. So now, here's the other thing, okay? So every culture is different. So again, he's 50 years old. His parents are helping him out. They want to go about it the right way. And again, because the concept of a teenager back then was different because in the ancient cultures, when did you become an adult? No, not 12.
16.
At 13. 13, 14, you were considered an adult. So because your responsibilities were different. In today's culture, it's like, that's a no-no. But you understand in the ancient culture back then, a young woman who's 14 already knows how to cook, take care of the sheep, take care of the camels. She can take care of the little ones. She can put up tents, tear down tents. She knows how to cook, clean, everything. A young man at that age hunts. He can bring in all kinds of game. He can hunt. He can tend the sheep. He can defend. He can fight. He was taught weapons. The culture was way different. Let's fast forward to the New Testament. Mary and Joseph, right? You guys watch some of the movies. Who's seen movies about Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus and all that? Or maybe a pageant. Okay, a little play. How old do they always make them out to be, both Mary and Joseph in the movies?
Yeah, like in the 30s.
Well, in the movies. Huh? They make them to be like they're 19, 20 years old. If you study, Mary is 15 and Joseph's 35. Because the culture is different. When you study Isaac and Rebekah, Isaac was 40, Rebekah was 13. All right? So the culture is very different. Again, very frowned upon. And when you talk about it now, people are like, yo, that's some crazy stuff. But the culture was very different back then. And that's the problem. In today's world, I mean, think about it today in the United States. What is the responsibility of a 15-year-old today? Go to school. What else? Do your homework, things like that. Very, very little, clean, very little stuff, right? But in the culture back then, a 15-year-old man, not only was he educated, he could hunt. He could fish. He could, like I said, he could do all kinds of things. So there was a lot of different things that were happening. Now, I want to point out some things. So first, if you're single, the question I have for you is, who are you interested in? If you're single. If you're a single person and you're considering someone to date, who is the person you're interested in dating? That's the big question you have to ask yourself, all right? And in today's world, they find a lot of ways about dating. You can go online, you can... And the culture is always changing because of the technology. You know, there's a lot of things. And then there's some websites, or I don't even know what they're called, because I'm oblivious to them, because when I was dating, it was like you dated the local girl down the street, hence my wife, right? But my son, he found his wife playing video games. They were playing video games online. Apparently, he was an elf lord. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so, no, but they're playing video games, and they meet online, and then they're hanging out, talking online, and all the friends are online, and that's the thing. And so if you're younger, you get this, because my generation was like, you got out of the house, you went somewhere to be with your friends, try not to get in trouble, and then there might be a suitable person that you're like, whoa, I'm really interested in. But nowadays it's, you know. And so when he started dating, I literally had to be like, yo, is this a real girl person? I don't know, it's not some 65-year-old dude in Dakota that's, you know. He got mad at me because I did my due diligence as a dad, you know. But he married her, and they're doing well, and they live in New Hampshire. So, look, today's world is very different on how they go about dating. And so, whether dating online, dating in person, there's a lot of long-distance relationships. But you have to use wisdom, and the question again is, who are you interested in, okay? Now, if you're interested in somebody, here's the questions you got to ask. So if you're taking notes tonight, here's what you want to write down so you can ask the right questions. Number one, is it a godly person? That's number one. Is it a godly person? And if you're married tonight, don't worry, I'll get to you. Don't worry. So if you're married and you're like, been through all this, well, it's okay. Take notes for your future generations. All right? Is it a godly person? And again, is it a godly person that loves Jesus? Because there are people out there who are like, yes, I'm godly. I believe in many gods, therefore I'm godly. All right? No, do they love Jesus? All right? The next thing you want to ask yourself, not only are they godly and do they love Jesus, but is the Lord opening the door to date this person? Or are you finding yourself having to lay some C4 to that door and try to blow it open to see if you can get in? All right? Because if you have to force the relationship, something's wrong. All right? And just because you date a person doesn't mean you'll marry them. A lot of people have this idea, if I date them, that means I'll marry them. Well, the purpose of dating is to move towards marriage. That is the goal. But in our society today, it's a lot of feely, go out, date, see if it works, see if you're compatible, all this stuff. You can do that as friends. And listen, this is coming out of my mouth is the weirdest thing, because if you would have round the clock back before I was following Christ like I should, and I was young in the core, I used to look at dudes who like, yeah, dude, I never kissed a girl and I'm dating her. I'm like, yo, what's wrong with you, bro? But now I'm like, yo, that's pretty cool. Keep it up. No, I'm just kidding. So, I'm sorry. If you guys don't know, that's my daughter's boyfriend right there. So, all right. No, but again, when I was young, it didn't make any sense to me. And I think sometimes parents don't convey it well. And I always wanted to be a parent that would convey it well. I think my mom tried the best she could to convey some things, but it just came out weird. My dad, he didn't convey things much. It was always funs and games and jokes. There was not a serious relationship of, son, like this is, you know. And my mom, she was left to do a lot of it. And then it's an awkward thing. I don't know. I love her. I don't think she knew how to. I think she had the idea if you hold hands, that's how babies are made. So I'm kidding, Mom. She's watching. But the thing is, it's just, we're all there. And so as a parent, I want to be able to help my kids this. But then I've met parents who are just way over the top with it. And they give too many details they don't need to give to the kid. All right? And so you want to have wisdom in this if you're a parent with a child. And know your child's age. If they're 14 and they want to date, why? Ask why. Why do you want to date at 14? Where's this going? Are you going to marry them? You're in middle school, high school, whatever it is at 14. Is it high school? Oh. Okay, so if you're in the 9th grade and you want to date, you got all of high school. Where's this going to go? Because if you do date, and if you were the person that dated in 9th grade and it was serious soon, and we made our way through high school, and when you went to college, what happened? Or you went to the Marine Corps, what happened? It's over. And on top of that, not only is it like, let's say it's the small country town with the small country girl, guys, or ladies, the country boy. And next thing you know, you're in the military, you're in the big city, the college and everything, and then you meet Fernando from Argentina. And his accent is so amazing. And the way he sees the world. He's just so different from, hey, y'all want to get my truck? You go cow tip and shoot something. You get my point? Yeah. But it happens. It happens. Some of you laugh because it was you. So, if you say that doesn't happen, I don't know what world you live in. It happens all the time. All the time. I meet Marines all the time that were like high school sweethearts, really into her, and we're serious. And they get to the Marine Corps, and I don't know what goes on, and they just don't think straight anymore. And next thing you know, they're like, I'm breaking up with her. This is why dating in high school is not a good idea. All right? So if you have kids in high school, it's not a good idea. You know, what's it going to lead to? If they're dating in college, okay, there's more potential things to happen, but you got to plan everything through and think how this is going to end up. And even those who have a rarity, look, I'm not trying to be a hypocrite by saying wait, because I'm a rarity. And what I mean by that is I got married at 18 years old, out of high school. My wife is 3 years older than me, and we've been, as of tomorrow, we'll be together 23 years in marriage. It's a rarity, all right? Thank you. But the reality is usually if you get married at 18 years old, you don't make it past 20. There's usually a divorce that goes on, or there's problems that happen. And so this is why you want to ask these questions. Is it a godly person who loves Jesus? Is the Lord opening the door? All right? Who are you interested in? Now, the next thing you want to write down is this. Who is giving you advice? And is it godly advice? Because people can give you good advice, but then there's godly advice. And some people give really bad advice. And then again, if they're giving you the advice, are you applying it? Because you can get advice all day, but will you apply it? You know? Have someone ever told you like the best plan to do something and you just never did it for yourself? So, yeah. We've had many times where we've gotten advice and we don't apply it. You need to apply it. It's so important. Make sure you apply it. Because, again, I deal with people come to me and ask questions about this and questions about that. And what should I do about that? And I go, take this step and try this step and do this step. And they don't do it. I deal with marriage counseling and I say, do this and do that and approach it like this. And they don't do it. And then they come back and, it didn't work and blah, blah, blah. Well, did you try it? No, we didn't. Premarital counseling, the same thing. Take these steps, go like this, try like that. And they never apply it. I will tell you, if you come to me for marriage counseling and I tell you to apply something and put it to the test and you don't, I will then tell you, okay, go home and do it again. And you don't, then I say, okay, don't waste my time. We're done because you don't want to. Apply it. Now, if you say we applied it and this is the steps we took and it didn't work, then okay, we'll figure out what went wrong. If something happened where, again, because like dealing with military lives sometimes, he went to the field or she went to the field and we couldn't apply what you said. Okay, I understand it. Now you can. But I've had couples refuse to actually do the steps that they need to do, so I will not waste my time. Well, that just sounds mean. No, it's not mean. Think about it. Let's reverse it. Let's say you're the one dealing with me that's having problems, and you say, do step 1 and 2. And we'll meet next week, and we'll talk about step 1 and 2. And I go, yeah, we didn't do it. Okay, what happened? I give you an excuse. Okay, do step 1 and 2. And then I don't do it. And then the third time, I don't do it. Do you want to meet a fourth time to hear I didn't do it? By that point, what am I telling you? I don't want to do it. Do you know what most couples are doing when they come to sit down with me when they're having problems? It's not, hey, we need to fix ourselves. It's, hey, you need to fix them. I'm fine. You need to fix them. There's nothing wrong with me. Nothing. It takes 2 to tango. And you have to work it out, okay? So, again, are you getting godly advice, and who's giving you the advice? Are you applying the advice? The second part to this, all right? Parents, are you praying for your kids and giving them dating advice that is practical? And if you're not a parent, maybe for your niece, your nephew, your little brother, your little sister. But are you praying for your kids and giving dating advice that's practical? Practical. Again, if your kid is 15 years old in high school and you're like, oh, sweetie, you should totally date her. You'll be so cute together and get married. Is that practical? No. They're 15. And how quickly do emotions change when you're 15? Day by day. I wake up moody. I wake up happy. I wake up moody. Do you remember being 15? For some of you, it was like yesterday. But the thing is, you wish. So here's the thing. Think about at that age too. How often does a person at that age change what they want to be in the future? I want to be an astronaut. I want to go to the Marine Corps. I want to go to the Air Force. I want to be a police officer. I want to be a veterinarian. I want to be a doctor. Every week they want a different career. I don't know about you, but for me, it wasn't until 17 I really knew I wanted to be a Marine. I really knew that's the career path. And I made every effort to get into the Marine Corps and be ready for the Marine Corps. Now, some 17-year-olds have that drive. Some don't. Some people don't have the drive till they're 21. Some of you are 45 and still haven't figured out what you want to be. All right? Okay, that's fine. And some of you are trying to figure out relationships still, and you're getting close to 50. All right? I'm just saying, there's no one in this room because you guys all listen to the Lord and do the right things. I'm sorry. No, anyway. Shots fired. All right. That's what Luke always says. Shots fired. All right, now, okay. And parents, it can't be advice to your kids like this. Stay in your room till you're 30. Or God will bring someone to knock on the door. Joseph. All right? Yeah, that was Joseph's advice once upon a time. God will bring you a spouse, but they may not knock on your door. If they're going to knock on your door, the chances are it's the mailman, the UPS man, or the FedEx. or it's the police showing up with a warrant. One of the two. But the thing is, and I can tell you, listen, and let me tell you what I mean by youth, okay? Let me tell you some stories. I'm not going to drop names, and there's some things I want to show you tonight. But I dealt with a young Marine one time. This young Marine one time, he had a little bit of an anger problem. I mean, he was like the Hulk when it came to anger. He didn't turn green and huge, but so he got into a little situation down in Carlsbad, and it was to the point that the police were called. But when he got angry, he literally ripped his shirt off like he was John Cena from the WWE, right? And the dude's yoked. So he was like mad, just ripped it off, right? Like it's the Hulk going on here. And so the police came, and there was a young rookie female cop that she was 22 years old. And so they called me, and they go, "You his pastor?" "Yeah, he's pastor. If you come down and pick him up, we won't arrest him. You can take him back to the church, and we won't press any charges." I said, "Cool." So I got down there. We got him in the truck. We finally got him calmed down. And then the young female police officer comes up to me and goes, "Is he single?" And I'm like, "Honey, you need to choose better men." All right? I think she got the wrong idea when he was like, "Rah." All right? So, the dude was yoked. I'll give him that. All right? So, seriously. So, I mean, you want to use wisdom in this thing. And again, for parents, give your kids wisdom. You gotta talk to them about what the Lord's gonna do. So third, you gotta ask yourself, what is good or godly wisdom or advice that people get when it comes to dating marriage? Because the world will give you all kinds of things. There's bad advice. Like this. Let me give you examples of bad advice when it comes to dating. The world will tell you this, and people will tell you this. If it feels good, it must be right. If it feels good, it must be right. Is that always true? No. If it feels good, it must be right? Okay. There's many things that feel good, and they'll mess you up. All right? If it feels good, it must be right. No. It's like that song. If it makes you happy, it can't be that bad. All right? That was Sheryl Crow. If it makes you happy, then it can't be that bad. Is that true? No. Look. 4 grilled steaks smothered in mushrooms make me happy. But if I eat all 4, it's going to be bad. All right? If it makes you happy, all right? It can't do it. Trust your heart. You hear that? You ever been told that? Trust your heart. Jeremiah says the heart is deceitfully wicked. Who can know it? Trust your heart. Our emotions change all the time. All the time. You ever been dating and have a bad day? And they're like, break up. It's a bad day. You know, oh, he's the best. She's the best. Trust your heart. Nope. We all have a soulmate. You ever heard that one? We all have a soulmate. Who's heard that one? Raise your hand. We've all had a soulmate. Okay. Here's the other thing that I've heard. We all have a soulmate, but sometimes there was someone else. We've all had a soulmate, but sometimes there was someone else. I'll give you an example of what I mean. There's a local pastor here, well known. He was preaching. At the end, a young lady comes up and goes, "God told me I'm going to be your wife." And he goes, "Really? Let's go ask my wife what she thinks about that." I've had people actually told me that. Like, I think I married the wrong person because they're not my soulmate. I have to go find my soulmate. That's why I'm getting a divorce. Really? Where would your soulmate be at this point then? You know? I've had people tell me that they feel that they can't leave the city they live in because they won't find their wife, so they don't take certain jobs. They've been offered amazing jobs, and they won't take them because they got it in their head they have to live in this city to find the woman they want to be with or the guy they want to be with. What? You know, we get told crazy stuff. Here's another one that we're told. Do it for the BAH. So if you know what that is, do it for the basic housing allowance. If you're military, a lot of them get married just to get extra pay. And it's called a contract marriage, and it's been going on for a long time. When I joined, there was contract marriages going where they would go, "Okay, girl, we're going to get married, so the Marine Corps gives me extra money. We're going to put it to a place to rent, but we're not going to be intimate." Guess how long that lasted? Most of the cases I dealt with, the woman was pregnant within 6 months, because being in the same place together for a while and then being around each other leads to things. All it takes is one night of too much wine and too little clothing. You know? But it was for the BAH. One of the worst cases that I heard about, I wasn't a pastor at the time, but I was still in the Marine Corps active duty. One of the worst cases I heard about was that there was a Marine who did this contract marriage. They were at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. They had set up the contract marriage. Then his buddy, who was a Navy corpsman, moved in, and the girl was there, he was there, and it was all going smooth according to plan. But then they both started really liking the girl. It ended in a murder-suicide. Yeah. I'm not saying if that happens, it's going to always end in a murder-suicide, but that's one of those cases. But it's not wise. And then think about this. Let's just pull it back to not so extreme. So what happens, someone decides to make this decision, and they do that, and then they get this marriage thinking we'll see other people, and all of a sudden they're maybe not having any intimacy, and they're just using it as like we're just living partners, and then all of a sudden one of them goes, man, I really found the person I want to be with, and now they got to go through the whole process of divorce, and the divorce is on the record and all this. It's just craziness. All right? So never do that. The other thing we're told all the time, by the fourth or fifth date, you both, if you both are serious about the relationship and there's chemistry, you should sleep together. Really? Well, that's what the world constantly tells us. I was told all the time by my higher ups, well, you got to test drive the car. You got to test drive the car. You got to test drive the car. Meaning, you know, you want to sleep with her. No, she's okay. What? That's horrible advice. It's horrible advice, and I'll explain in a minute. And some of the stuff I would hear would come out of the other guys who were married, and they would say things like, because I'm married and they're married, and they would say things like, you know, when you eat cornflakes every day, and then one day you're just in the mood for Honey Nut Cheerios, and it's okay to like try something different. What? No. Listen. The problem with the concept of sex before marriage is this. Here's the reason, okay? And this is, I know it's not popular in the world, and a lot of people, you know, get upset with this. And if you've fallen this happened to you, look, I'm not judging, I'm not busting your chops. I just want you to hear this. This is all I want you to hear, okay? Because we've all made mistakes. We've all done things that were like, you know, you ever tell yourself, I'll never do that again, just to do it? Maybe the next day, all right? Here's my point in this. Here's my point in this whole thing. When you decide to get intimate that way, no matter the age, if you're a teenager, if you're a young adult in your 20s, a seasoned adult, whatever, when you decide to have that form of intimacy, not only are you connecting on a spiritual level, not understanding where that person's at, and especially if it's a case scenario where the individual decides, I'm going out, I'm going to party, I'm going to have a little fun, and they meet someone and they don't know who they are, there's all kinds of ramifications that come with it. There's the spiritual aspect of the whole thing. There's the aspect of medical that can happen. A lot of people don't realize this. Like, for example, when you're intimate in that way, and bodily fluids are exchanged that way, those bodily fluids can stay in your body up to 7 years. That's the intensity of it. So you're carrying that person for you for 7 years in your system, and then let's say 6 months go by, a year goes by, and you find another person you get intimate with like that, you still have them in your system to a degree. Not only do you have an emotional attachment, that's why when you have kids who are teenagers in our culture today, and they're 15, they hook up sexually, there is emotional attachment that comes to each other that they don't know how to deal with because of the lack of maturity that's happening. But you can be like, wait, hold up. Didn't you just say in the ancient lands they used to do it different? Yes, because the maturity level is different. I'm not saying it's the right way, all right? And I can tell you from deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan, it still goes on there. There are young ladies who are 16 married to guys who are 26 in Afghanistan, all right? And I'm not saying it's the right way. What I'm saying is that there's an emotional thing that happens in this. You can be a 35-year-old man and a 35-year-old woman, and there is emotional connection to that type of intimacy. The other thing that can happen too is if there's not an emotional connection, because I've also have talked to people during counseling, whether male or female, who have had intimacy in that capacity that's sexual, but they're disgusted by the whole thing, but they can't stop themselves, and they don't know why. And yet the concept of someone touching them disgusts them, but they can't say no. And so there's all kinds of things that come with this. And then on top of that, you have people who have gone through life that have been taken advantage of. And it totally warps the brain and how they think about intimacy. Do you understand God created this intimacy? God designed it to be perfect. Designed to be perfect in marriage. Designed to be perfect that there was no harm in it. Paul says all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. And the thing is, it was designed with a man and a wife because the way God designed it, in not just in the physical aspect, but in the spiritual aspect and the emotional. Let me give you an example of what I mean. So in Hebrew, a husband's called an ish and a wife's called an isha. When the two are together, you actually get the name of God in there. If you take God out of the equation, all you have is fire and they burn each other. When a marriage does not, or a relationship does not have God at the center, you will hurt each other. You will drive and hurt each other, and you'll be like, well, you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you, and you hurt me, and I'm going to hurt you. And because you hurt me worse, I'm going to one-up the game, and one-up until what happens? Divorce. Divorce happens. And so it's so important that Jesus is at the center of the marriage, that God's at the center of marriage, that you understand it. And the advice that we get from the world is some of the worst advice we ever get. You know, the other thing I've heard people say, if you sleep together on the first date, there was real chemistry there. No. I'm trying to say this in the most PG way I can say this. There was not real chemistry there. You were seriously in the mood. I don't know how to put it without sounding like a Marine that's in the field. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? It's not chemistry. It's hormonal. You know, I really need some right now. Yes.
It's a chemical reaction in the brain when you hook up.
Thank you for all the PG help. All right. Look, so let me give you some good godly advice so that way you guys know where to start. So if you're dating tonight or starting to date or you want to date or you're thinking about dating, I want to give you some good godly advice. If you're married and you want to date, go for it. And I don't mean other people. Date each other. Go out on a date. Have a romantic evening. Go spend time over coffee and talk about things. Do stuff. Go out. All right? I think sometimes we get married and then the chemistry's out. And the thing is then what happens is you get married and then mom and dad are like never touchy-feely in front of the kids and they show no emotion. And then the kids are like, if that's marriage, I don't have nothing to do with it. Because all they see is screaming and yelling. As they say, first there's oohing and awing, and then they're screaming and yelling. But the reality is that the kids should see some form of connection. My kids have seen how I am with my wife. Shoot, people who are not my kids have seen how I am with my wife. You can ask a few of them that I've mentored, you know. They're just like, ew, gross, right? But the thing is, to be affectionate to each other is good. It's good for the kids to see. I would tell you this, what's really interesting for my son. Okay, my son, he's making all kinds of choices. I get it. He doesn't see things the way I do with the Bible. That's okay, you know, he's in that area. But the one thing that he is solid on is he wanted to get married because he saw how me and my wife are. He saw that God healed me and healed her and healed our marriage. He gave us something new. He didn't take us back to the old. And so God will use you in this if you're a parent. Now, here's the good advice. So here we go. You guys ready for this? Okay. Good or godly advice. Seek the Lord and let him guide the relationship. That's one I'll tell you right now. Seek the Lord and let him guide the relationship. So what does that mean? That means don't help him. Don't make it go faster. Don't make it go slower. Don't, ladies, don't be like, I'll change him. You will not change him. It ain't going to happen. Men, I'll change her. It ain't going to happen. And ladies, I'm just going to take him to church. He'll change. No, he won't. He is going to church because he sees the prize. And once he gets the prize, church is over. All right? You will not change him. Men, you will not change her. Only the Lord can change a person's heart and mind. Only the Lord can change how a person thinks about things. Not you. They'll do it temporarily. Men, let me put it to you like this. You can have a young man who is a complete slob, never cleans his room. You're always pulling the dishes out of his room, warning him about ants being in the room. He may have a car, and the car is filthy and disgusting. He does not keep himself like he does, and he sweats, and then you have to be like, whoa, dude, get in the shower, right? One day, he comes down clean, shaven, nice haircut, wearing your cologne, and he's cleaning out his car, and you go, oh, he found a girl. Yeah. Because before then, it was like, no, going 2 weeks without bathing doesn't mean you're John the Baptist. Get in the shower. All right? All right? I'll use my daughter as an example. She's years one way. That's the way she is. She went to school dances wearing Converse and a dress. That's her style, right? That's her thing. And one day, she walks out because this dude is coming to visit, and she's wearing a dress that's really pretty. And I'm like, oh. I already know what's going on. And it's funny because the fact is I'm guilty of this, where my own wife will wear this like really pretty black dress that I'm like, yes. And my daughter wears that. I'm like, what are you wearing? Go back inside. Go get your mother. As a dad, I'm guilty of it. But then again, I think of my own life and choices I've made, and I think like, man, if my son pulled this, I'd be like, for me, at the time in my youth, I'm like, yeah, boy, what's up? And now as a parent, my kid pulls it, I'm like, I'm not even going to say where it's at because it's just, I don't know. It's just one of those things, Look, I will say this, just so your minds don't wander. I always liked older. So I was 15 and I dated a 20-year-old. Okay? Living in Central America. Very different culture down there. So in my mind at 15, I'm like, dude, 15, 20-year-old, oh yeah. And then I had to think about it. I'm like, dude, if a 20-year-old woman came from my 15-year-old son, like, yeah, I'm taking Ian out for the evening. We're going to the movies. I'd have to be like, what's going on here? Now, if you're here tonight and you're a dad and you're like, yeah, boy, we need to talk afterwards because it's not sitting in your head right, what I'm saying. Look, I'm just saying that, like, the things we go through, we just think different about. And my mom already knew that, so she's watching. She's not having a heart attack, all right? But here's the thing, okay? So, again, good godly advice. Let the Lord guide the relationship. If you're going to date, all right, know your limitations. That's another one, write down. If you're going to date, know your limitations, okay? Don't put yourself in a disqualifying or compromising situation. Know your limitations. So I always tell people this if they're going to date, know your limitations. So if you know that you go on a date, you're getting to know the person very well. The Lord is in this. You're not doing things that are going to compromise, and you can take this person on a date. You can walk him to the door, all right, ladies, and you can kiss them goodnight and say, see ya. Great. Right? But if you know that's going to lead to beyond the threshold of the door and into the bedroom, don't get out of the car. Know your limitations. You have to know it. And everybody's got different limitations on this, and I'll explain what I mean in a minute. But know your limitations. Don't put yourself in a disqualifying situation, especially if you want to be in the ministry. Especially if you want to be like, hey, I want to be in the ministry. I want to help in the church. I want to learn to like do the ministry and come up and teach people the Bible or be a pastor or stuff like that. Be very careful what you do. Be very careful. I'm not saying you have to look, and there's good books out there. You know, there's Real Marriage. That's a great book if you want to read one. Everyone was into this book called Every Man's Struggle and Every Woman's Struggle. I can't stand that book. I don't like that book. I don't recommend that book. And this is why. I went through the book. Everyone's like, everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing, and all these couples should go through it, or they're single. The book is basically for the guys is don't ever talk to a girl, you'll figure it out, and God will bring you somebody. What? Don't ever talk to a girl? So I'm at the age where I'm 21, I'm 20, I'm 22, I'm going to date, maybe find a wife, and every woman that comes my way, I'm supposed to be like, excuse me, don't talk to me. Talk to Jesus, not to me. Thank you. That's not how this works. It was like, don't get coffee with her. What? How are you supposed to know her? It's like, it's the dumbest advice. That's not how this works. What you do is you go, for example, let's say Sean is in his youth here, and he's single. And he goes, hey, man, I really found someone I'm really into, and I really like her. I want to get to know her. Then what he does is he goes, this is who she is. We're going to go get coffee at Starbucks. It's this Starbucks. And I'm going to be there this long. Now, does he need to tell me all that? No. But why is he telling me all that if he does? Accountability. So that way, if I haven't heard from him for 12 hours, either A, I need to call the police because she was a psycho from Tinder, all right? Or he has moved on to things that he doesn't want me to know, all right? So just you need to be wise about it. Next one. This is the other one. Build your friendship on the rock of Christ Jesus. Build your friendship. A lot of people don't understand that a relationship to do really well has to have a friendship. I've had a lot of people tell me, that's dumb. You date, it's not a friendship. No, it starts with a friendship. My marriage is built on Jesus, and my wife became my best friend. And that's the importance of it. It's built on friendship. That is the most important thing. It's not built on romance. It's not built on sex. It's not built on a commonality of pain. I met a lot of military members that their whole dating relationship, even marriages, were built on the trauma of combat war. They both experienced craziness in war, so therefore they built the whole relationship on the pain of war, and guess what bled all over that marriage or that relationship? War and pain. And then they went after each other. I'd like to take credit for this, but I can't. But it's so interesting because if you guys got the teaching I sent from Pastor Greg from Sunday, he was the guest speaker, Greg Opine at Maranatha. I laughed. It was me, Joseph, and Lana. My wife went to go see her mom, and we laughed so loud in the back of the church. Everybody turned around to look at us. Because the guy literally was talking about, just going through rough things in life, and it doesn't work out. And he said one day he just looked at his wife and goes, you make a lousy God. Because it's true. A great partner, but a lousy God. Because she's not God. My wife is not God. I am not God. She is my helper. She helps me. She helps watch for things that are dangerous. But Jesus is my God. Jesus must be her God. But for her to be my God, it doesn't work. Because here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. If you make the person you're dating your God, and they fail you, then what? Your God has just failed. And now what are you going to do? They left you in pain and misery and frustration. and they failed you. And now what? It must be the Lord is your God. Now, the other one I will tell you, do not rush or try to help God in the relationship. A lot of people want to do it. They want to rush. They want to help. You know, they want to make it go faster. Maybe the person's in your life and they're going to be your spouse. The person's going to be with you for a long time. But you want it right now. You want it next week. You want it yesterday. And God's like, no, it's going to be 2 years. Because I'm going to develop some things out of them that it's a danger. Maybe they got anger issues. Maybe they got major insecurities. Financial problems. Maybe their idea of money is just spending it everywhere. And they max out credit cards and you don't know it. The thing is, if you take the relationship to the Lord and you pray, everything will come out that's going on with the person. You know, and that it will become clear. So here is some actual advice I've actually given people when it comes to dating and marriage. This is actually advice I gave to people who got counseling. And I'm not going to say their names because that's private, but the statements I said to them in these relationships. Okay? So if you ever came to me, these might be some of the things I might tell you, depending on what you tell me. All right? Number 1, Jesus must be the center of the relationship. I will tell you that all the time. Jesus must be the center of the relationship. The person you are dating must love Jesus more than you. For some women, that bothers them. What? What does that mean? Because if they love Jesus more than you, then they'll do nothing to hurt you or compromise you or do things that will harm you. Because they love God more than harming you. I said to all the girls, if the dude doesn't love Jesus more than you, don't date him. Because he's only after one thing. And you're going to have lots of disappointment and pain. Next one I've told people, if they're trying to remove you from the church or the Bible study, that's a red flag. If you ever date somebody and they're like, you know, you really shouldn't go to, I don't want to go to that church anymore. Can we just not go? Can we just hang all the time? I mean, I get it. You want to be spiritual. That's cool. You and Jesus, that's cool. But do we have to be there all the time? That's a danger. That's a danger. The reason being it's a danger is because that eventually leads to this. Do we always got to see your folks? Do we always got to go hang out with your folks? You know, I really don't want you talking to your folks anymore. And the problem is then it will lead to you don't have friends, you don't have a support system, and you're trapped in your own house. You will be kidnapped into your own home and not know how to get out. And the problem that happens, ladies and gentlemen, is see, guys want to fix things all the time, and ladies like to please. So a woman will always try to keep the man happy in the relationship. And she will compromise and compromise and compromise where she shouldn't until it becomes dangerous. And it's not good. You don't believe me? Ask my wife. She'll tell you the same thing. The flip side of that coin, gentlemen, is that if the woman doesn't understand the dynamic of how God designed things and how men, you're supposed to lead. It says we're supposed to be the high priest of the household. What does that mean? We're supposed to treat the woman like Jesus treats the church. We're supposed to love her and sacrifice, right? And in return, we get respect. But the thing is women, what happens is if you don't understand the dynamic, you will try to rule over the guy and control him, and everything will go backwards. And it'll be you and you and you and you, and you will never be satisfied. In fact, Proverbs says it this. It warns about a woman who is hateful and is married, because she gets married and she should have joy, and she finds no joy in her marriage because she wants to control. Look, and again, my wife has helped me with this because my wife has sat down and told women, you want to control. Oh, I don't want to control any man. That's not true. Every woman wants to control the situation. It's part of the nature of a female. Just like every guy wants to fix a problem. Get in an argument. And what does the guy want to do? Fix the problem. What's wrong, honey? How can I fix it? Da-da-da-da. You know? And then you're young, and this is happening. So the woman's upset, and she's having the argument. You're having the argument. She wants you to be a certain way. It can't work that way. Now she's all upset and huffy and puffy, and you want to fix it, and you're trying as a guy figure out how to fix it, and you're going to her, and you're trying to explain like, let's try and fix it. And then she looks at you and says this, you're only doing this because you want to have sex with me. You're like, what? No, I'm going to do this so I don't have to live in torment inside my own house. No, that's not what it is. It's because you want to fix it. But it just goes back and forth. But you see the statement that's said there is also a control factor. Because again, and you don't believe me, I will introduce you to women who have told me this, that they were taught to control the guy by destroying their money or withholding sex. All right? That's not how it's supposed to be. All right, we're almost done. Focus with me. Here's another one I've had to deal with. If they're stopping you from obeying God, don't date them. They want to compromise. They want you to do things that are against what you know is not right in God's eyes. Then don't date them. The stupid statement, hey, baby, if you love me, you'll do this. That's the most stupid statement ever. If you love me, baby, yeah. Shut up. If I ever hear someone say that, you'll see me come out of nowhere. Excuse me, what'd you say? So, don't compromise. All right? The other one I've had to tell people, porn does not spice up anything. Society tells us that porn does. Porn does not. Porn comes from the Greek word porneia, which is what we get the English word fornication. Porn does not spice up anything. Pornography is an illusion. What it is, it causes a woman to believe she has to be a certain way and perform a certain way to complete something for a male that is not real. It's not real. And it puts unwanted pressure on both parties to believe that this is supposed to how it's supposed to be. And then on the flip side of the coin is if you're a single person and you're exposed to porn and porn is a factor of your life, then you have a problem where you cannot function how to socialize when it comes to the reality of dating. Because unrealistic expectations are put there. And the thing is because what porn does of instant gratification and how quickly things can happen, you don't learn how to endure the long run to pursue and to woo a young lady, gentlemen, because you're so used to quick fix. And porn will lead to other things. Porn leads to, well, let's just go to the strip club. It leads to dealing with prostitutes. It leads to just casual sex. It leads to sex parties. And then you end up spending out yourself so bad you don't know what to do. Now, listen to me. I'm not judging. If anyone watching online or here has ever went down that path, God can redeem. I myself was addicted to porn, and God set me free. He took it away from me. When he took it away, it went away. I was exposed to porn at a really young age. At a really young age. I remember being exposed to it at a very young age, living in Milwaukee. And I saw this image, and I remember seeing the image going, man, this makes absolutely no sense to me because I was a young kid. I was like 8, 9 years old. And I was like, that's weird. That's what I can remember thinking, that is some weird stuff. It wasn't until 12, 13 I go, now I get it. I get what's happening there. But the exposure had already happened, and therefore it causes a problem. And then today's world, it's accessible everywhere. Today, it's right on your phones. Kids in middle school are exposed to it. Kids in elementary school are exposed to it. The kids are getting exposed to it faster than you know what's going on. And it rapidly affects. And so let me give you some stats real quick. People go, well, guys get exposed to it faster. No, girls do too. And in the military, there's a lot of women exposed to it. And the fact of the matter is, did you know that 40% of the women in church are addicted to porn? And 60% of the men? Did you know that 50% of pastors are addicted to porn? 50% of pastors. Now, I can tell you right now in integrity, I am not. Jesus set me free of it. And when he did, I felt it pull away and it was done. But think about this for a minute. If we have a pastor's luncheon and there's 10 pastors that come to the luncheon, 5 are addicted to porn. That's the stats of it. If think about next time you're sitting in Sunday service. Just take a quick glance at Sunday service and see how big your church is that you go to on Sunday. And go, and if you're a female, go, 40% of us are addicted to porn in here? And men, 60% of us in here? It's crazy, isn't it? I know pastors that were on staff that got kicked off because they rather look at it at the church computer than their own house and get caught by their wife. That says a lot. So look, porn does not spice up anything. It warps the brain. It warps the brain. That's all it does. It causes guilt. It causes shame. And if you really want to read an interesting book about how bad it gets, there's a book called Porn Again Christian. Porn Again Christian. And it talks about the dangers and the things that go behind the scenes. People being held at gunpoint. Things that are just the most grotesque, violent things being done. All in the name of making money. And it's one of the biggest industries, bigger than any of the sports industries combined, bigger than the NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox News, all of them put together. And the porn capital industry is right up the road in Los Angeles. And there's tons and tons of people addicted to it and stuck in it. And they get stuck in it at a very, very young age. I have a friend who is a sheriff for the San Marcos Police Department, and part of his job was to do sting operations to rescue some of these young ladies who were getting trapped in prostitution and pornography. Sometimes they were doing sting operations where they were trying to get people who think they were soliciting, 13-year-olds and stuff like that. He said one time they were arresting a young lady that she's 19 years old for prostitution because the law states they have to. And as they're arresting her, she hands him a card that says, "You should check out my porn site. I've been doing it for 5 years." Do the math. She's 19, 14 years old. One time they were doing a sting operation that they actually caught a real prostitution operation going, and they filming it at this hotel. And let me tell you something. The stuff he said they filmed was insane going up to the room. Marines in camis thinking they were getting a 13-year-old. They got a naval officer in full dress whites arrested. They arrested one dude right out of the School of Infantry who was an instructor. And they called the sergeant major and said, "Hey, we just arrested this guy. He's one of yours. What do you want to do?" And that guy was like, "Keep that piece of garbage." It was a sergeant that thought he was getting a 13-year-old. Listen. Pornography is highly, highly destructive. It does not spice up a marriage. It does not spice up relationships. And it leaves you just empty. And it's highly destructive. The other things I've had to say to people, no, you can't mess around like that. No, it's not okay if she's topless and you're messing around like that. Because I deal with a lot of Marines and they think that's normal. Well, we're not having sex. It's okay, right? No, that's not okay. That's a very intimate part. That's not okay. No, you cannot stay in a hotel room together and watch movies and think you're not going to jump all over each other. That's the one I get all the time. Yo, my girl's coming out. She's going to be seeing me. Oh, that's cool, man. Where's she staying? Oh, she's staying in the hotel room. I got a room. Where are you going to stay? Oh, we're going to stay. We're just watch some Netflix. So you're going to stay overnight and watch movies and not touch each other. Yeah, man. Yeah. Maybe you're not made for each other because you have no attraction then. Well, so then you are going to mess around. I wasn't born yesterday. I know how it works. Hey, you want to watch a movie? What should we want? Romance? Action? Scary? Dude, I was young once. I get it. Oh, dim the lights. Right? Now, when you're married after 23 years, you're like, what do you want to watch? Murder mystery or my stupid police soap opera that you call it? because I watch Chicago PD. Or she says my space novella because of Star Trek. She's like, you're watching your stupid space novella. So, look. And when you're young, you'll watch the stupidest movies because she's into it, right, guys? You'd be like, that's the dumbest movie. You wouldn't pay anything to go see that in the theater, but because she's like, oh, you're so cute. You want to watch this with me? And it's like, it could be like Pee-wee's Playhouse. And be like, oh, I love Pee-wee's Playhouse. Yeah. Let's totally watch that. So dumb. I'm sorry. I'm the only one that's finding this funny because I've seen it. We've all been there. Look, let me put it more practical terms. My son is allergic to cats, okay? He can't handle cats. He gets around a cat and it's like, that's him, right? Okay? He's like, I can tell he's been with a cat. He meets his wife, Faith. She loves cats. They're starting to date. So what does he do? He was working at the mall. He goes over to the pet store and he holds cats because she likes cats. And then he comes home. I go to pick him up and he's like, I was talking to Faith. And I'm like, all this for a girl. Sinuses swelled up and snotty and cat hair. And this is the prettiest thing ever. But we've all been there. I'll tell you my own story. We're in Honduras. I'm walking with my wife. We're going to go see a friend. All right? So, we just started dating and I'm all into her. I'm still into her after 23 years. And so when I lived in Wisconsin, we used to have garter snakes, little green garter snakes, brown ones sometimes. And so I was like, we used to catch them, right? So I see this little snake. It's called a guarde camino in Spanish, or watch your path. So I saw it and I was like, oh, check this out. And I went to go grab it by the head and it bit me in the wrist, all to impress her. We were dating. Thing was hanging off. I was like, oh, and I yanked that thing off. So now, before everybody rushes out, I want you to hear this. This is the last one. We're done. I literally had to tell this to a Marine. No joke. No joke. He said to me and my girl want to have a Bible study. I said, that's cool, man. That's cool. You guys want to read the Bible? That's cool. So he sends me a picture of the Bible study. And I go, no, bro. You can't have a topless Bible study. But we're reading the Bible. But you both can't be topless. That's not how you pray. But we're laying, no. That's the best one. I couldn't stop laughing when that happened. I was like, what's wrong with you, dude? Listen.
Why did he send it to you?
Why exactly, right? Yeah.
It's a Marine. They don't think anything through. I can tell you worse stories about Marines, but we would have to censor half of the video. Listen. Look. To end tonight, the point of how this all connects is, again, here is Jacob's parents giving good, godly advice. He needs to leave so he's not involved with bad women. What you need to do tonight is think about the things I said tonight, what I wrote down. Who are you dating? Who are you involved with? Do they love Jesus more than you? Are they godly? Are they going to make you compromise? Are they going to do anything that you don't want to do? And I will tell you this is for the ladies because I have a daughter. If a man tries to make you do anything you don't want to do intimately in bed, that's a problem. That's a massive red flag. All right? And if you're like, no, I really don't, and they're pushing the issue, tell them to go take a cold shower. Boundaries. There must be boundaries. All right? There has to be boundaries. Boundaries are important. But I hope tonight this helps. If you're married, think about these things. Maybe this helps improve some of your dating life. Maybe it's improve some of your marriage life. But this is something I just wanted to share with you guys. I'm going to close in prayer, and then I'll take any questions online or in the room, okay? Lord God, thank you for tonight. Thank you for all that you're doing. And Lord, I just pray that you would help each couple that are dating, help people who, even the marriages, protect the marriages, enrich the marriages, Lord. I pray for those who want to date or are seeking to date, Lord, they would listen to you and use wisdom in their dating. And Lord, that you would help them not to compromise or to go back to old ways. Lord, I pray for those who are lonely, that you would heal the loneliness and that you would heal their heart, Lord. We praise you and we love you. In Jesus' name, Amen. Now, one last thing. I did want to do communion tonight, like I said. So if my wife can help, Jamie, and I think Terry, she's going to have you help pass it out. That's okay. While they're getting that ready, I'll take any questions that are online or in the room.
There are no questions online.
All right, we'll wait till. Any questions in the room? Yes, sir.
I kind of have a statement, not really a question.
Okay.
I had read something about be having the same effect as a concussion. Like it actually causes brain damage.
Yes.
From watching it. Like if you were to play football for years or be in a car accident, smash your head pretty bad, then it actually has the same effects.
Yeah, it does.
With gray matter and stuff. And
It has the same effect with the brain, and it has the same addiction as cocaine.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. So, any other questions? Yes. I'll repeat it so you don't want to run. Yes, Michael.
When you mentioned like dating in high school only lasts a couple of months, how would you know it's the same rule apply if someone was being homeschooled?
You shouldn't date your sister. I'm just messing around, bro. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Look, if you're homeschooled and you're a teenager, there's homeschool groups. You shouldn't date at a young age. I mean, at 14, again, ask the question: where's this going? What's the purpose of it? I get it. At 14, it's like, you don't think about these things, but the adults are that are thinking it through, But it's whether it's homeschool, whether I got homeschooled for I think 2 years. I was part of a homeschool group. There were girls there, Some of them were, Anyway, let's move on. All right. Sorry. Any other questions?
Can you confirm Jacob and Rebecca's age real quick? Was that 40 and
Confirm Jacob's age?
Rebecca's?
Yes. The age was 40 and 13. And you find that in the book of Jasher. According to the Anamundi calendar, it shows their age of the birth and everything and how old they were. Or Isaac and Rebecca. Yes, Isaac and Rebecca. Thank you. But yes, that's why the Anamundi calendar is so important, because it shows us their ages and how they are. Okay. Now, yes, sir.
Joy wants to know, why was Jacob so special to God?
Why was Jacob so special to God? And who asked? Okay, for Joy. Jacob was special because Abraham was given the promise that he would have many descendants like the sands of the sea and the stars of the sky, and out of him all the nations would be blessed. So then Abraham couldn't have kids. God did a miracle that at 100 years old, he has a son. His wife's 90, okay? Isaac comes along, and then they have 2 kids. Jacob was special because as God was preparing, he's the one who wrestled with Jesus. When it says in Hebrew, he wrestled with the Ish Adonai, the man of God. In English, you'll read it, the angel of God, or the Malak Adonai, the messenger of God. So he changes his name to Israel, and he blesses him, and his 12 sons become the 12 patriarchs of Israel and the 12 tribes. And so out of him, this whole promise, how is the nations, all the world blessed? Who comes out of them? Yeshua. Jesus, or Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Messiah. So yes, that's how the whole world is blessed. All right. Any other questions? All right. Now, shifting real quick to communion. So as you're getting the communion stuff, the whole purpose is to remember what Jesus has done for us on the cross and how he set us free. And so the price he paid on the cross and the importance of it. I'm just going to wait till they bring the cup over here, and so we'll talk some more. Now, communion is for, I need one. Communion is for the believer that has given their life to Jesus because of the fact that they have said, I am following Christ, and this is remembering what Jesus did for me. This is the importance of it, all right? And so here's the thing I would like to offer to you. if you are following Christ and your life is Christ, this is important that we do this. And there's a reason why I'm picking today to do it, and I'll explain in a minute. But if you've never given your life to Jesus, then you don't understand the purpose of it. But this could be the first time you take this, if you're here tonight and you want to give your life to Christ, all right? Or you're online watching and you're like, okay, I was going to grab this stuff. So here's the question I want to ask. See, here's the beauty of it. God loved us so much that he gave his son Jesus to come and die and pay the penalty for our sins so we didn't have to pay it. Because no matter what we do, we can never be perfect. And we always make mistakes and we have sin. There's sin nature living in us. But his blood washes it away. He gave his life for us to be free. And so when you really look at the awesome thing of it is he gave us the cup of redemption while he took the cup of wrath on the cross so we could be free from sin and death. And he broke his body so we could be free. So it's so important. So here's the thing I want to ask. Is there anyone here tonight that's in the room that they know they want to give their lives to Jesus and they never have? If that's so, raise your hand. You want to? Okay.
I mean, I'm open to it.
Awesome. Well, open is good. So here's the thing. What I want you to understand is this. It's understanding that God loved you so much. Remind me your name again. Eliana. I like that name, Eliana. So God loved you so much that if you were the only one, he would send Jesus to pay the penalty for you so you could be a free person. And the beauty of it is that he fills the void that you've been trying to fill. And not just you, but all of us. And we fill it with all kinds of things. So if you're really serious about this and wanting this, it's a simple prayer to pray. And the reason I show people to pray this, it's not like Harry Potter, something's going to happen. It's not the sky's going to open, the ground's going to open. But it's between you and the Lord in your heart that you surrender to Christ in this. And that you ask him to set you free. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Do you want this? Awesome. So pray this prayer from your heart. I'm going to lead you it. You pray it. And then this is you talking to God, all right? So just pray, repeat after me. Lord God, I know that I'm a sinner and I need a Savior. I'm asking you to forgive me of all my sins. Fill me with your Holy Spirit and I will live for you. In Jesus' name, amen. So the beauty is now that you're taking this, you truly understand the price he paid because he broke his body for you and he shed his blood for you. And for me, I am a free man because of it. Because I was a mess and I was empty. And now I'm free. So, and if you prayed that online and you've been listening and watching, just let us know. We'd love to get a Bible to you. So, what Jesus did sitting with his disciples, so you guys understand, he's doing the Last Supper, what we would call Passover, and he takes the bread and he breaks it and he gives it to his disciples. And he says, this is my body, which is broken for you. So go ahead and take it. Then taking the cup, he goes to the disciples and he tells them that his blood will be spilt for them, for it to be free from sin. And we do this always in remembrance that he paid the ultimate price for us. So, there's a reason I wanted to do it today, and this is why. As I thought about what happened to me in 2006, it was 2006, September 23rd, 2006, that an anti-tank mine wired up as a roadside bomb destroyed my vehicle and caused a lot of damage. God spared my life in that. I didn't understand why God spared my life, and I saw a lot of things that I can't get out of my mind from war. And it troubled me for the longest time. And there are things I will talk about and things I will not talk about. And falling into the deepest darkness that I ever fell into witchcraft and being free from it. Because Jesus set me free. Because of what my wife did for me. Searching for me for 6 months as I destroyed myself. I just didn't understand why, and I always felt like I wanted to die. And when God got a hold of my life and Jesus set me free, I was given a second chance of grace and mercy like I've never known. I got sent to Wounded Warriors. I got an opportunity to get better, and I wanted to be a park ranger. And I was like, I'm going to be a park ranger. And then the whole time doing the internship up at Cleveland National Forest, is right above Lake Elsinore, for 60 days, the Lord dealt with me. I had given my life to Christ, but the Lord was dealing with things in my life. And I remember just driving up the freeway, and I would hear these preachers on the radio. It was Raul Reese and Chuck Smith and a lot of guys from the Calvary Chapels. I didn't even know what Calvary Chapel was, never heard of it. And the 60 days, God just dealt with me. And the beauty was I could go work on the trails and talk to the Lord, and the Lord would deal with my heart. And then my wife would make me lunch, and I would sit out and look over Lake Elsinore and talk to the Lord. And after the 60 days, the Lord said, I didn't call you for this. I called you for people. You go preach the gospel. And the enemy tried to stop me. And I jumped into ministry. I started at a church here locally in Oceanside. And then I ended up in another church where I met a guy named Adam Riojas who got me into the military ministry to lead it. But the Lord building and sparing me was all to come here to the Anchor. John knew this. John Hines knew this. The Lord had already given me a dream in 2009 about this place. I've shared that with you guys. And it was all for this, to preach Jesus, crucified, resurrected, and coming again, and to teach the Bible so people would know the importance of the Bible. And that's the beauty of why I wanted to do this, because on the day that I should have died, I didn't, because God spared me. And, you know, Jesus gave his life for us to be free. I'm a free man. The beauty of what Jesus did for me was this. I don't know if you've ever been to combat or you've had those kind of experiences, or maybe you've had different kind of trauma. I've talked to a lot of Marines who have not had combat trauma, or they have had different ones. And I told some, I said, you know, you may not know what it's like to be in a war zone, but maybe you know what it's like to be in a bad neighborhood and grow up in a bad neighborhood, or what it's like to go through trauma and have different form of trauma. And it does something to you. It almost entraps you. It almost entraps you in time, right? Where you're only stuck in that moment of the trauma, or you're only stuck in the moment of how bad things have gotten, right? And the beauty is that what Jesus did in my life in this whole thing is, once upon a time I was a Marine in a combat zone, and I'm not anymore. Because the really weird thing about the trauma of the whole thing, whether it's war or a car wreck or sexual trauma or abusive parents or whatever, it's like a part of you stuck in that time where the trauma happened, and a part of you is trying to move forward out of it, and they're pulling apart. And the Lord did something to heal it. And so I want you all know that Jesus heals everything. And so I do get a little quirky on the 23rd. There's some days I get past the 23rd and I'm like, nothing's happened. And then all of a sudden October, I'm strange. My kids know it. My wife knows it. Sometimes I'm bouncing off the walls building up to it, you know. And as the Lord has dealt with me through it, I will share this with you. It's the weirdest thing. I can't explain it. If you guys know this, you know what I'm talking about. You're making toast. Boop. It pops up. And you're like, you don't know why. It affects every emotion of what you do as you get closer. Your brain's trying to deal with the whole thing. And if you ever dealt with this kind of trauma, when you go to sleep, your brain wants to deal with it. So you dream these tense dreams. And I remember dreaming this stuff of combat. And I remember one of them, I always share this, running to the friend and flipping him over. His face is gone. And I was dreaming that all the time. And then one time I would dream it, I flipped him over and a demon's looking back. And I started to realize Satan was playing in these. And the Lord was showing me how to overcome it. So, I will share this with you and then I'll end here. The closest thing I found of people who have a good understanding and a close, very close similarity to understanding combat trauma, missionaries. Missionaries. I remember meeting this missionary who went to Ecuador. He's dealing with kids. They were dying in his arms, man. People were killing these kids, like smashing their skulls, things like that. And they were dying in his arms. And he was sharing. I was at the Bible college, and he's sharing. And he said he would come home from Ecuador from this, and people would be like, dude, how was your vacation? And he was like, I wanted to punch them in the face. And I was like, oh, I get that. Come back from a comment zone, like, yeah, bro, you killing people? I'm like, you know? Missionaries go through it. They have that same trauma, you know? So I just want to do this today because it's very important, and I think we should do communion more on the Bible study. I want it to be tailored towards the Bible study because I also don't want it to turn into like, there's nothing wrong if a church does like the first Sunday or the first, that's fine. But I don't want it to just turn into like a tradition of that's what we do every first Friday or that's what we do every, I want it to have meaning connected to what we're talking about. So that's all I just wanted to share with you guys. And I hope you have a blessed weekend. And thank you for joining us online. Some people are watching like 3 hours ahead in the East Coast. It's late there. So thank you so much. Yes.
Just in closing, I just want to say that, you know, the fact that God spared you 23 years, how?
In 2006.
2006.
Yeah.
16 years ago. And his whole plan, you know, I mean, your life hasn't ended yet, so I'm sure there's more plan to it.
Oh, yeah.
But his whole plan up to this point at least was to bring you here. And all of us here are part of that same plan.
Yeah.
And I feel so honored and blessed.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And that's all the Lord. And for you guys online who hadn't hear, she was talking about the plan that God had of sparing me in 2006 and bringing me to the anchor. Everyone here listening and y'all listening online are all connected into it and that plan. And yes, God still has a plan. If we're all really, really lucky in our generation, we may be the one that never dies and gets raptured. That's what I'm hoping for. So, or the Lord takes us home. That would be great. Amen. All right. So, be blessed. Have a great weekend online. Thank you for joining us. And next week, we will continue through the Bible. If you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer.